Wait a minute. I want to say some words. Voices are calling in the earth. Music is rising in the sea. The spirit of morning fills the air, guiding our journey home. Here is the path beyond the forest. Here is the song we always knew. I remember it's just around the bend. In the village, the music never ends. In a circle of friends, in a circle of sound, all our voices will blend when we touch common ground.
Let us all sing together. 1024, The Spirit Says Dig.
The Welcome to the Unitarian Society of Santa Barbara. Welcome to this space, this place of peace, where we come not only to create our best selves, but also encourage and support each other on our spiritual journey. Welcome all who seek renewal from a weary world. You do not have to put aside any part of yourself to find a place at our table. The doors are open to all people of goodwill, regardless of age, religion, culture, or identity. A special welcome to first-time and returning visitors. We're glad you're here. Know that you are among friends, on common ground. Stay for our time of fellowship following the service, and please sign our guest book if you have not already had the opportunity to do so. I'm Peter Hale. My pronouns are he, him, a member of your worship team who, along with Brent Wells and Alex Overby, are your hosts for this morning's service. We have two announcements this morning. You're invited to join a Dream Circle. Beginning July 16th, USSB member Jamie Tate is offering a 6-session Dream Circle to explore your dreams, not as puzzles to be solved, but as symbols and stories to reflect on. To sign up, click on the registration link in your Friday email, or sign up at the RE table. After the service, childcare will be available with advance notice. And recently, a proposal was brought to the Board of Trustees to consider displaying the American flag on Sundays at the entrance to this sanctuary. You are invited to join Chuck Flax. Is Chuck here this morning? Where are you, Chuck? All right. You can sit down now. Thank you, Chuck. Join Chuck and myself during coffee hour today to have a discussion about this issue. We'll be in the area in the parish hall back by the bookcases. Grab your refreshments and come on over. Now, settle yourselves. Leave the concerns of this past week outside. Relax. Open your hearts and minds to wonder, inspiration, the comfort of being amongst like-minded people, and to the simple joy of being together.
If you'd like to participate in our chalice lighting from home, click Chalice is Lit on the screen. We light this flame to remind us, love is the center. As we grow and connect, mature and deepen, love remains the center. When the light of truth burns away all else, love remains.
Every Sunday we highlight at least one good thing that reflects our values as UUs and speaks to our first principle, which affirms the worth and dignity of all people. In 2013, James Obergefell and John Archer were married in Maryland because their home state of Ohio would not legally recognize their union. When John Archer was diagnosed with a terminal condition in 2014, they realized that the surviving partner would not be listed on the death certificate, thereby eliminating any right of inheritance. Obergefell, who was no stranger to civic activism, sued the state of Ohio. The case went to the Supreme Court on June 26, 2015. The court ruled in his favor, and the right for people to wed whoever they love became the law of the land 10 years ago this past week. And we celebrate that. The ruling not only affirmed marriage equality, but also offered clarity in adoption, property transfer, parental rights, and privacy. Justice Kennedy, speaking for the majority, said, "No union is more profound than marriage, for it embodies the highest ideals of love, fidelity, devotion, sacrifice, and family. Beyond being a constitutional right, the freedom to commit our lives to whoever we choose is a human right and worthy of all the protections our country can offer." There's something else we're going to celebrate this morning. It is the first Sunday in July, and anyone who has a birthday in July, like myself, come on up and receive your star and your recognition. We have a little one who can't walk yet. We are so happy that you all are part of our congregation, all the things you do here to contribute to this community. Please, as you go through the day, wear your star proudly, and remember, you are so appreciated and loved in this place. Yes, I want my star too. I'm sorry.
I'm Dorothy Warnock, and I was born July 17th, 1938.
Good morning, and I am Trace Riordan, and I will be 57 on July 19th.
I'm Cantor McDermott. My birthday is July 13. I was born in 1948.
Good morning. My name is Travis Manyach. I will be 47 on July 9th.
I'm Anna DiStefano, and on July 29th, I'll be 78.
My name is Nancy A. Thompson, and I have been in this body since July 8, 1953. So I'll be 72 July 8.
I'm Sarah Carr, and on July 28th, I'll be 83.
I'm Florence Michelle, and on July 25th, I will be 94.
I'm Peter Hale. I was born on July 10th, and I'll be 78.
Georgia, do you want to talk to us?
No.
On July 20th, Georgia will be 4.
Thank you all. Wear your stars proudly.
Good morning, everyone. I am Charla Bergante. I'm the Director of Religious Exploration. My pronouns are she, her, and it is time for a story. So I want to invite anyone who wants to come up and listen to a story to come on up to the steps. Good morning. We're going to be reading a story called Her Right Foot by Dave Eggers this morning. A little abbreviated. Oh, here they come. Who here has heard of the Statue of Liberty? Raise your hand if you've heard of the Statue of Liberty. Oh, good. Almost everyone. Some of you didn't raise your hand. Who here has seen the Statue of Liberty, been there to visit? Oh, a whole bunch of people. Yeah, great. Did you know that the Statue of Liberty was a gift from France to the United States for her 100th birthday? A bunch of people knew that too. The statue was designed by an artist named Frédéric Auguste Bartholdi, and it was actually built and assembled in France and stood high above Paris for about a year before it came to the United States. After the workers assembled the statue in Paris, they had to take it apart. But we just put it together, the workers said. That is absurd, they said. They said all of this in French, the language of the French, a people who appreciate the absurd. In 1885, they took the statue apart, they put the parts in 214 crates, and loaded these crates on a boat. The boat traveled over the Atlantic Ocean and made its way to a city called New York. Hundreds of workers took the pieces out of the 214 boxes and then began to rivet the pieces together. It took 17 months to put the statue together on a little island called Bedloes Island. You may know that the Statue of Liberty is made out of copper, and that over time, copper turns from brown to green. The Statue of Liberty turned green around 1920. You may know that the statue is carrying a book in her left hand with the date July 4th, 1776. Who knows what happened on that date? Peter, do you know what happened on that date? Nope. No, Peter doesn't know. Okay. Well, right, that's the date that the Declaration of Independence was signed, and that's the birthday of our country. And this year on July 4th, we were 249 years old. You might also know that the 7 spikes on her crown represent the 7 seas of the earth, the 7 continents, and the sun's rays, too. And you probably know that the torch she carries is the symbol of enlightenment, lightening the path to liberty and freedom. But there's one thing, oh yeah, when you all see the slides up there, right? I'm gonna need you to see those slides, especially the kids, so head on over there when you have a minute. There's one thing that you might not know, and that is that even if you have seen a picture of the Statue of Liberty, or even hundreds of pictures of the Statue of Liberty, you've probably never seen her feet. And even if you have seen a picture of her feet, you probably have not seen pictures of the back of her feet, in particular, her right foot. What do you notice when you see this picture? What do you notice when you see the foot, the picture of her foot? Anybody? You don't know. Somebody doesn't know. Anybody know? Walking. Yes. That's right. She's going somewhere. She's on the move. Let's pause here and collect ourselves and think about this. Let's discuss this. Let's think about and discuss the fact that this is the largest sculpture in all the land and the most iconic symbol of the United States of America. Let's talk about the fact that this statue has welcomed millions of visitors and immigrants to the USA. Yeah. People talk about her unusual headwear. They talk about her gown, which seems to have been made of a very heavy kind of garment, a fabric, that would result in serious lower back issues, I think, if any of us wore it. They talk about her beautiful torch and the severe look on her face. But no one talks about the fact that she is walking. This 150-foot woman is on the go. Every time we see the Statue of Liberty in pictures, or any time we imagine the Statue of Liberty, we see her standing still, very still, like a statue. But she is moving. She weighs 450,000 pounds and wears a size 879 shoe. And she is moving. How can we all have missed this? Or even if we saw this and noticed this, how is it that we have seen and noticed a 450,000-pound human on her way somewhere and said, just another 150-foot-tall woman walking off a 150-foot-tall pedestal? And so most important, where is she going? Is she going to Soho to get a panini? Is she going to the West Village to look for vintage Nico records? Oh no, she's facing southwest, so she's facing New Jersey. Could she be going to Trenton? Wait, no, she's facing southeast, so she is not going to New Jersey, but she's going somewhere. But where? Why is she moving? There are certain things we know. We know that around her feet are chains. They are broken chains, implying that she has freed herself from bondage. We know that Bartholdi wanted us to know this. He wanted us to see the chains. People have talked about the chains. But few talk about that foot that is so obviously in mid-stride, about the fact that her entire right leg is in mid-stride. What does this mean? What does this mean that we often forget about this right foot, this right leg? Well, here's an idea. Here's a theory. Here's a reminder. If the Statue of Liberty is the symbol of freedom, if the Statue of Liberty has welcomed millions of immigrants to the United States, then how can she stand still? Liberty and freedom from oppression are not things you get or grant by standing around like some kind of statue. No. These are things that require action, courage, and unwillingness to rest. The Statue of Liberty was not built to welcome just 1,886 immigrants from Italy on one certain Sunday in, say, 1886. No. She was built to welcome 3,000 immigrants from Poland the next day. The next day, 5,000 Norwegians. After that, 10,000 Glaswegians, then Cambodians, then Estonians, Somalis, Nepalis, Syrians, Liberians. It never ends. It cannot end. After all, the Statue of Liberty is an immigrant too. And that is why she's moving. That is why she is striding. In welcoming the poor, the tired, the struggling to breathe free, she's not content to wait. She must meet them at sea. And that is our story for today.
Good morning. I'm Alex Overby. My pronouns are he, him. I want to thank Peter and the entire ministry team for giving Brent and me the opportunity to share our reflections with you today. We are both deeply grateful to be part of such a loving and accepting community. I was born in the year 1995 in Skokie, Illinois, to a Jewish mother and a Catholic father. At that time, there was no federal laws protecting people from discrimination based on sexual orientation in employment, housing, or public life. Gay and lesbian people could serve in the military only if they hid who they were. Same-sex marriage was illegal in every state, and the Defense of Marriage Act, passed in 1996, federally defined marriage between one man and one woman. LGBTQ+ people were often barred from adopting, and courts routinely denied custody to gay parents. I'm an only child. I don't remember much about my early years in Chicago, When I was 5, my family relocated to Colorado. The year was 2000. Pride events were becoming more visible. Support networks for LGBT plus community youth, including suicide prevention and HIV education, started to expand. Around 20 states had some form of anti-discrimination protections, and some courts were beginning to allow adoption by same-sex couples. Still, support for marriage equality remained low. Only about 35% of Americans were in favor. The next 15 years of my life were turbulent, perhaps traumatic even. Shortly after we moved to Colorado, my parents got divorced. At age 13, I was diagnosed with a rare form of ocular melanoma, resulting in the loss of my left eye. The following year, I lost my dad to liver cancer. At 15, I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis, a chronic illness that nearly claimed my life when I was 17. But I survived. I graduated from high school on time, even after spending 31 consecutive nights in the hospital my senior year. In that fall, I enrolled in CU Boulder. I'm still recovering from trauma I'd experienced. I soon realized I needed to drop out and focus on my health. Later that year, I moved to Santa Barbara for a fresh start. I was still in the closet and carrying deep internalized homophobia. I truly hated myself for being gay. During those same 15 years, from 2000 to 2015, so much changed for the LGBT plus community. In 2003, the Supreme Court struck down all remaining sodomy laws. By 2010, Don't Ask, Don't Tell was repealed, and in 2015, same-sex marriage became a constitutional right. By then, public support for marriage equality had risen to 60%. My healing didn't happen overnight. It took about a year in Santa Barbara before I began to feel comfortable enough to seek out relationships. In 2015, I met Brent online. He was my first boyfriend, and I really did hit the jackpot. Brent helped me to begin to accept and love myself. He was endlessly patient and didn't pressure me to come out before I was ready. In fact, I wasn't out to my family and friends for the first 6 months of our relationship. On my 21st birthday, I finally came out to my mom and my family. It was difficult. Growing up, I had never been introduced to an out gay couple or even an openly gay person. I was taught in school that being gay was a sin and an illness that could be cured. I considered myself fortunate that my mom and stepdad found a way to accept me and continue to love and support me as a gay man, despite raising me in a church that told me it was not okay to be gay. Brent and I began building a life together here in Santa Barbara. We both graduated from UCSB and started working in our respective fields for the county of Santa Barbara. We have the best four-legged child in the world, and we live each day with the gratitude for the rights that so many fought for decades past. On November 5th, 2022, Brent and I were married right here in this beautiful sanctuary, surrounded by our family and friends. Thank you. My journey hasn't always been easy, but I'm incredibly grateful for where it's brought me. 15-year-old Alex could never have imagined a 30-year-old version of himself who was gay and happy. I truly believed I was destined for a life of misery simply because of who I would love. I consider myself incredibly lucky to be gay in a time when I don't have to fear for my housing, my job, my life. But we must not forget that just 10 years ago, marriage equality became law, and within my lifetime, it was still a crime to be gay in parts of this country. I can't stand up here and talk about how far we've come without acknowledging the fear, scrutiny, and hatred LGBTQ+ people still face today. Many rights, especially those of transgender people, are actively being rolled back through legislation, executive action, and court rulings. Over 20 states have now banned gender-affirming care for minors, and some are even restricting it for adults. Over 20 states ban girls and women from playing on female sports teams, even in middle school. And in 2020, in 2022, Justin Clarence Thomas wrote that the court should reconsider cases like Oberfell versus Hodges, which gave us marriage equality, and Lawrence versus Texas, which decriminalized same-sex relationships. The doctrine of religious freedom is increasingly used to justify discrimination. Just last week, the Supreme Court ruled in a 6-3 decision that parents have the right to opt their children out of school lessons that include LGBTQ+ content. But let me end with some bright spots. States like California, New York, Washington, Colorado, and Massachusetts are expanding protections and declaring themselves sanctuary states for trans youth and families. Over 70% of Americans now support same-sex marriage and basic LGBTQ+ rights. Legal organizations like the ACLU and Lambda Legal are fighting back in the courts and winning some key battles. And Gen Z is the most openly LGBTQ+ and affirming generation in history, and they're pushing back loudly and unapologetically. Thank you for walking this journey with Brent and me. We are beyond grateful to be part of this loving community. And we promise to do what we can to support the next generation of LGBTQ+ kids, especially those who are still struggling to love themselves for who they truly are. I'd like to close with a quote from one of my favorite authors, Tara Brach. True happiness arises out of simply being present in this moment, not grasping after anything, not wanting life to be any different from what it is right now. There are countless opportunities for such moments of presence in our lives when we are not leaning into the future or resisting what's here. Moments when we are letting life be just as it is. Opening to these moments is a taste of freedom. Thank you.
Always got to take a good breath. Good morning. My name is Brent Wells. I use he, him pronouns. When Peter first approached Alex and me with the request to speak in front of the congregations, a few thoughts ran through my head. Would I really be able to come up with something important enough to be said aloud? Would I really have something you enough to say? Why me? I was anxious, and I did not share these thoughts at the time. A real you would not shy away from a challenge such as this, went another voice in my head. A familiar voice that for me can be difficult to distinguish between helpful motivation and shaming not enoughness. And so I committed. Quick disclaimer, I know that I could have said no, and I am not being held against my will up here. I've only been a part of UU life for about 9 months now, give or take. I moved to Santa Barbara about 10 years ago from New Jersey, where I grew up my whole life and where I left behind my tightly knit family. Despite these 10 years in Santa Barbara, this UU chapter is the first time I feel like I have started to develop a deep sense of community and connection here. It's the explicit messaging about honoring the inherent dignity of all people, all living things, and this one world we all share that keeps bringing me back. It grounds me in a culture that often perpetuates the message, you are not enough. You need to try harder, be more, do more. A message that I have had a difficult relationship with throughout my life. As a young gay kid coming out at age 16, I learned quickly to protect myself in 2 ways. Make myself small enough so no one will ever notice me, or perform perfectly so others could not bring me down. It served me well at the time. I got good grades, was part of many school groups, and achieved enough to be able to make it into UCSB, a helpful pretense for starting a new journey where I thought I'd be able to escape the onslaught of the shoulds and the musts that plagued me in New Jersey. Spoiler alert, it was not the end of that struggle. It is interesting that in spite of years of personal growth, development, and a healthy dose of ongoing therapy, I still feel a sense of unease expressing my sexual identity so explicitly in front of others, even when I know that the people I am saying this to are some of the most accepting people I know. But to the point, this reflection is supposed to be about freedom and what I can be doing in my life to make a difference in this world. We can track a creeping progress in our country: abolishment of slavery in 1865, women gaining the right to vote in 1920, same-sex marriage becoming legal in 2015. As I researched these dates, it struck me how our government system operated on an opt-in later basis rather than a foundation of inclusion. Meanwhile, society fills in the inexplicit pieces, the unspoken rules that carry the power of whether or not you will be accepted. For early humans, acceptance often meant the difference between surviving the harsh winter huddled around the fire together or freezing to death alone in the snow. For some, those who are homeless, struggling to find stable shelter or access to food, this is an ongoing realistic concern. For many of us, though, technological advancement and modern prosperity has reduced this threat almost entirely. But we are beings operating on brains that have developed over hundreds of thousands of years, and that survival instinct of be accepted or die is still a hardwired anxiety in us. So even when we are not at risk, our brains might be tripped into that survival mode, fight, flight, freeze, fawn, where we get stuck in a lesser version of our full potential. Maslow's hierarchy of needs explains how our physiological needs, such as food, clothing, and shelter, needs for safety, need to feel love and belonging, and need for esteem must all be met before we can seek self-actualization. And having the opportunity to self-actualize, to meet one's full potential, I believe, is what defines true freedom. What I have learned is that I cannot be truly free when I am ruled by the shoulds and the musts, by societal messages that are so often left unquestioned, that tell me I am not enough or that incentivizes conforming to perceived norms as a survival strategy. So what can I do? I can give myself the grace in knowing that I will not be perfect. There are times where I will be reacting from my emotions rather than acting from my deepest intention. This is okay and normal. There are forces in this world bigger than I can control, and I can extend that same grace to others. I can surround myself with inclusive community that intentionally brings awareness to and disputes the messages that impose artificial limitations to our freedom, and I can be an active member of that community. I can use my voice to break through my own limits and empower those to break through theirs. Ultimately, I can choose to stand as a living example of freedom in thought and action for anyone who might give me the time of day. As Maya Angelou said, the truth is, no one of us can be free until everyone is free. I am grateful for this opportunity to do something slightly uncomfortable, to put my values into practice, to put my anxieties to the wayside, and claim a taste of freedom. I am grateful for this community, for you all, whether a familiar face or one I have not yet had the pleasure to acquaint myself with, for taking the time to challenge me, listen to me, and support me in this journey towards shared freedom. Thank you.
Now sing our reflective hymn, number 317, We Are Not Our Own. Please stay seated.
When I first joined the worship arts team long time ago, we were encouraged to visit other churches to see how they presented their worship services. I found myself in St. Paul's AME Church on Haley, Reverend Reuben Ford presiding. Easter was approaching, and their annual picnic potluck. As the Reverend climbed into the pulpit, he said, "I'm going to depart from our regular order of service because I have a problem with this congregation. Our picnic is 2 weeks away, and no one has signed up to bring any food. Who's going to bring that chicken? You're all just sitting on your hands, I can see that, but I want to know who's going to bring the chicken." A hand went up and back and said, "The Lord will provide." "The Lord," said Reverend Ford. "You mean Jesus? You think Jesus is going to bring the chicken? Our Lord and Savior suffered and died on the cross, was buried in his tomb for 3 days. He arose again just so he could bring the chicken? I don't think so. Okay, let me ask you all a question. Who owns this church?" Well, people looked at each other and they said, "Well, we do." The Reverend said, "You all agree with that? That we as a congregation own this church?" "Yes, we do." "I don't agree with you. Do you want to know who owns this church?" "I own it." People looked at one another and said, "What?" "That's right, I own it. Lock, stock, and barrel, and you own it. Every single one of you, lock, stock, and barrel own it. And as individual owners, you are responsible for its well-being. You cannot rely on anyone else to do what needs to be done. Now, I'm going to ask again, and I'll stand up here all morning if I have to. We'll start right at the top. Who is going to bring the chicken?" One woman stood up and struggled to her feet, really, and said, "Well, I always bring my honey fried. You all know that. But this year, I'm not doing so well, and I need assistance." And the woman behind her patted her on the shoulder, said, "Don't worry, I'll come over to your house, and we'll cook it together." And another man in the back said, not to be outdone, he says, "Well, I'll bring my chicken too." The minister said, "All right, now we're on a roll. Who's going to bring the potato salad?" Hands go up. "Who's going to bring the corn?" Another hand says, "The salad." The drinks, hands are going up. One woman stood up and said, "I can bring some pies." And so they had their picnic and took pride and pleasure in their contributions. This story has passed into family lore when Donis and I are talking about doing something together. And we think, who's going to be responsible for what? Somebody always asks, "Well, who's going to bring the chicken?" And we laugh. And speaking of contributions, each week we donate. What? Each week we donate 25% of our offering to a worthy organization that reflects our Unitarian Universalist values. July's offering will be shared with our own Immigration Justice Fund, which aids families in their journey towards dignity and self-determination. We invite you to contribute to this fund, which will help us live out our shared values in a world presenting increasing challenges to migrants and immigrants. Please read with me the affirmation of gratitude and giving printed in your order of service or on the screen. Let us be grateful when we are able to give, for many do not have that privilege. Let us be grateful even for our needs. Let us be grateful even for our needs, so that we may learn from the generosity of others.
Years and my life is still trying to get up that great big hill of hope for a destination. Realized quickly when I knew I should that the world was made up of this brotherhood of men, for whatever that means. And so I cry sometimes when I'm lying in bed just to get it all what's in my head, and I'm feeling a little peculiar. So I wake in the morning and I step outside and I take a deep breath and I get real high and I scream at the top of my lungs, what's going on? And I said, hey, yeah, 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 hey, yeah, yeah. I said, hey, what's going on? And I said, hey, yeah, 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 hey, yeah, yeah. I said, hey, what's going on? And I try, oh my God, do I try? I try all the time in this institution, and I pray, oh my God, do I pray? I pray every single day for revolution. And so I cry sometimes when I'm lying in bed just to get it all out, what's in my head, and I'm feeling a little peculiar. And so I wake in the morning and I step outside and I take a deep breath and I get real high and I scream at the top of my lungs, what's going on? And I say, hey, yeah, 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 hey, yeah, yeah. I said, hey, what's going on? And I said, hey, yeah, 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 hey, yeah, yeah. I said, hey, what's going on? Oh, oh. 25 years and my life is still trying to get up that great big hill of hope for a destination.
Well, we've talked about ownership in a congregation, but who owns this country? I've heard people say, it's not my country. I'm so ashamed of what's going on. And bumper stickers, you've seen them. It's not my president. I can relate. I responded the same way when I graduated from college and traveled to England in 1969, the height of our involvement in Vietnam, and met face to face the violent disdain in which this country was held, getting the cold shoulder in pubs and ridiculed in conversations. Hey, it's not my country. Nixon, he's not my president. It didn't work. I even tried passing myself off as Canadian. That didn't work either. Everybody knew I was an American. So it's my country. I own it, and you own it, each and every one. But it seems to have gone missing. It's like your car. You love your car. You maintain it, you boast about it, you take pride in it. It's filled with loving memories and sacrifice for making those installment payments. And it's gone. Not stolen exactly, or loaned. Commandeered, that's a good word. Perhaps abetting a bank robbery or plowing into demonstrators. But the thing is, it's still my car, both legally and ethically. If it's used to hurt someone, they can come after me, just I could go after the bartender who serves one drink too many, or the gun dealer who didn't check the IDs carefully enough. Just a few weeks ago, Virginia passed a law making parents criminally responsible, criminally, not civilly, criminally responsible if one of their unlicensed children drives their car and has an accident. It's my car. It's my country, and I'm responsible. No one in the world is going to let me off the hook. I know, I've been there. So, what to do? There's strength in numbers, solidarity, and safety. I felt it participating in the No Kings rally a few weeks ago. It's important to march, be counted, but I always ask myself, what can I do? Me, personally, to keep my balance, stay upbeat, contribute without feeling overwhelmed and powerless, to move the needle just one little notch back to center. Well, I can't change the world, but I can change myself, my behavior and intentions. Last year, in a reflection, I mentioned that I decided to start this process with the simplest thing I could think of, to look people in the eye when greeting them and smile. Because I noticed I had a tendency to look away, and that's neither engaging or respectful. So I decided to make and keep eye contact, make it a habit. Next up was turning wait time into conversation time. I noticed this while standing in line at Ralph's checkout, a tedious, silent process, right? I mentioned to the man behind me with all the ribs and charcoals he was buying if he was planning a barbecue. He said, no, quinceañera. And we chatted a bit about the superiority of mesquite over briquettes. The woman in front of me had her cart filled high with party supplies and family packs of Oreo cookies. I said to her that Oreos were the best deal because it says you get 48 on the bag, but there's really 96 cookies inside. Well, she did a take to see if I was pulling her leg, but I said, this is a playful argument I've had with my daughter. since she was old enough to count. No, said the woman behind the counter at the register. I think they're 2 cookies because whenever my kids eat them, they twist them apart and they eat each one. If they were 2 cookies, said the party shopper, it would say so on the bag. But I stood my ground. I said, you can buy individual Oreo chocolate cookies on Amazon with no cream on the inside. The barbecue man, still behind me, called out, then they wouldn't be cookies, they'd be wafers. And it's not cream, it's fondant. It's amazing what you learn when you just engage people in idle chat, you know. So this is something else I can do. Idly engage people, look for humor and the absurdity in everyday life, and spread it around. We're going to need all the help we can get to get through the next 3.5 years. Every so often I encounter people on the street who look like they need a helping hand. I've cut way back on my credit card use and now carry cash in my wallet. This has given me a ready source of 10s and 20s. And I have never given money to someone who's asked for it, but over the last 6 to 8 months, I've given away probably $200. I can do this. Makes me feel good, and an unexpected blessing just makes people's day. But is it accomplishing anything in the great scheme of things? To retain my spirit to help out, I can't think in terms of the big picture. It's too daunting. I need to think locally, personally, one-on-one. Still, once in a while, I hear a quiet voice saying, it's not enough. Why bother? I'm sure some of you are familiar with the parable of the child and the starfish. A man is walking along the beach, which is littered with starfish after a recent storm. And he comes upon a young girl picking them up one at a time and tossing them back into the sea. And he asks her what she's doing, and she replies, I'm saving these starfish. The man responds, but there are starfish without number on this beach. How can your efforts matter? She picked up another starfish, tossed it in the waves, and says, well, it mattered to that one. I have to live without trying to quantify the results of my good deeds. And getting back to the money, if you really delve deep into cause and effect, you'll find that economics undergirds just about everything. The Jews were not evicted from Spain during the Inquisition for religious reasons. That was just a cover-up. The royalty realized how much wealth the Jewish community had, and they wanted it. So they kicked them all out and kept it. That same scenario reappeared in Germany prior to World War II. So I've become very mindful about how I spend my money. I don't want to spend it on businesses that support views I don't agree with. I mean, people can have any beliefs that they want, but I don't have to support them. If you think about this as I do, there are websites that will help. GoodsUniteUs.com is one, and OpenSecrets.com. That's a good one. They'll break down political donations and who made them by zip code. I joined the Santa Barbara Republican Club. Not the party, the club. And not to spy or argue or even debate. I just want to know how these folks think. It was Desmond Tutu who said if you want to make peace, you don't talk to your friends. You talk to your enemies. But I don't think the people at the club are enemies. They follow citizens who perceive the world differently than I do. There are things I can learn. As I realized when Donis and I were in Washington earlier this year, and we took the train up the Potomac River to Cumberland, Maryland, rented bikes and cycled 200 miles back to DC. And this trail we were on went through Virginia, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Delaware, towns, villages, hamlets, and there was no doubt about the political leanings of the citizens there. But everyone was so friendly, genuine, and open to speak their minds. I came away with no doubt at all why they voted the way they did. They didn't want to be talked down to, told they weren't doing enough. These folks were struggling to put a life together for themselves and for their families. Rural America, they didn't want to hear about not doing enough. And here was somebody who said, okay, you're just fine, just as you are. I'm not going to ask you to change a thing. That's a powerful message. I hope these folks get everything they voted for. I'm coming up on the last few things on my list of what I can do. I can study history. It's reassuring because the inescapable truth is that things do not last, neither the good or the bad. They evolve, something new arises. The worst periods in human history, say the bubonic plague in the 13th century, killed 30% of the citizens of Europe. It eventually burned itself out and became the Renaissance. Did you know that democracy, as created in ancient Athens, only lasted 180 years? From the late 5th century to 333 BC, when they were conquered by the Macedonians. And ever since, it's been wave after wave of oligarchy, occupation, dictatorship, military rule, and now democracy once again. That gives me some confidence that our current political environment will not last either. It doesn't seem sustainable. History and memory, not nostalgia or reminiscence, but memories of a time I was strong, did the right thing without fear of consequence, times of courage and enlightenment, when the world and my place in it became clear. On that same trip to England I talked about in the winter of 1969, I went to visit a distant relative in the town of Cinderford near Gloucester, where my grandfather had been born. Marjorie, who was my mother's cousin, and her husband, Ted. We sat around a little coal fire in their parlor, sipping tea and talking, and I told them about my hardships relating to people here because of the Vietnam War. America had become profoundly divided, and I was doing everything I could to distance myself from it, even coming to England in December, which is not recommended. I poured out my feelings to them, and Ted says, "Come up to the attic. I want to show you something." So we're up there, and it's freezing, and Ted's in his tweeds and a scarf, a wool hat, and he has this pipe going, and Marjorie's downstairs filling the metal bedpan with the coals that's going to go between my blankets. He drags over a trunk, takes out a photo album, and we're sitting on the trunk under a bare bulb, and I'm freezing, and he's taking his time. Ted says, "Here I am in World War I. That was my war." He's very dapper in his uniform. There were some medals also attached to the page. Sepia-tone wedding photos of he and Marjorie, photos of them in their civil defense outfits during World War II. On the beach at Brighton, the children and grandchildren. "Ah, yes," he says, "this is what I wanted to show you." There were 2 ticket stubs taped to a page. The musical Oklahoma, and there's a photo of them outside the Drury Lane Theatre in London. Ted went on, the producers had decided to bring the entire production of Oklahoma to England in 1947. There were still a lot of your compatriots here, and the devastation from the war, of course, but we went. "Son," he says, "you cannot imagine the absolute euphoria, the joy that this show brought with it. America had saved us with your sacrifice, your courage, and generosity. And here it is. Here is its spirit embodied in song and story. Here was release from years of fear and deprivation. The audience went wild and demanded encore after encore. It's one of my fondest memories. And that evening with Ted became one of mine. "This is your country," he said, laying his hand on the page with the tickets and the photos. "It may have wandered off, but this is your country. You'll get it back. It may not look the same, but you'll get it back. Never doubt it." There's one more thing on my list, and that is to encourage you to create a list of your own. What you can do. Believe me, it doesn't have to be a big deal. It doesn't have to make the front page of the paper. It's personal. It's what you feel you can do to build a habit, to be inspired, to appreciate this community even more than I do. I want to hear about your lists. It will strengthen our bonds together and increase the value of our connection to one another. Our last song is not in the hymn books, although many people think it should be.
Also want to just take a moment to acknowledge that for this song, it does not resonate with many of our Indigenous friends. And so I just wanted to create some awareness while we sing this song. Sorry, 1, 2, ready, and. This land is your land, this land is my land, from California to the New York Island, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. As I went walking that ribbon of highway, and I saw before me that endless skyway, I saw beyond property, but on the backside it didn't say nothing. This land was made for you and me. When the sun comes shining, then I was strolling, wheat fields waving, and the dust clouds rolling. A voice came chanting, and the fog was lifting. This land was made for you and me. This land is your land, this land is my land. From California to the New York Islands, from the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me.
Please join hands for some closing words and our blessing. That song is as relevant now as when it was written during the Depression. In times of internal migration, displacement, hardship, and fear. This land, this country is your country. You own it. Maybe not control it at the moment, but history shows us that it is just a moment. I'll get my car back, or my grandson will. He'll cherish it just as I have. And in the meantime, we keep going, guided by our UU principles, our faith in one another, and our love for this country. It can only be co-opted if you allow it to be co-opted. And if you feel your spirit flagging, sometime you're going to hear the tune to Oklahoma, just like Ted did, and your faith will be restored. Now let's call out a blessing.